Welcome to Insight and Influence, a podcast presented by C&G Strategies, bringing you insightful conversations from influential people, including government officials, industry leaders, and advocates from across the state.
Hi, I'm Rob Vescio with C&G Strategies. Today on Insight and Influence, we have State Representative Justin Fleming from the 105th District, Dauphin County. Welcome. And Jen DeBell, Executive Director of PennAEYC, which is the Pennsylvania Association for the Education of the Young Children. Welcome both.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us at Insight and Influence. Childcare, let's talk about it. Early learning, 2025-2026 proposed budget. Had some wins. It was a good year. Any thoughts with the investments that were made last year? Well, November of last year, I guess, where we are. So, how's it? So, thoughts, Representative Fleming? You know, that was a good win. You know, we appreciate being a champion on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for me, right? I was part of the Start Strong campaign. I was a child advocate for 4 years before joining the General Assembly. Proud to say I've known Jen for. I won't throw out the number now, but it's been a long, long time. In her various capacities, our careers have paralleled one another, and you know, I think when we look at sound policy, right, what makes sense? Investing in our kids always makes sense, whether it's in the early learning space, whether we're talking about healthcare, whether we're talking about K through 12 investments. I mean, they are the next generation. They are the future that is going to, they're going to be our future leaders in this country, in this state, in our world. And so, you know, the more we can invest in our young people, and quite frankly, we'll hear a lot more about this, I'm sure, but the real angle for me is, you know, as not only a policymaker, but a parent. My kids had the benefit of going to high quality education, early learning, so I believe in it. Right. I believe in high quality childcare, and it's a workforce issue. You know, with the economy being the way it is, getting by on one salary is more and more difficult, so you need childcare, regardless of the setting, that gives parents peace of mind for when they go to work and when they earn a living. And so I'm thrilled to be a champion for this, and I will continue for as long as I'm in the General Assembly.
Perfect. Jen, yeah, one of the things that was the signature item of last year was the recruitment and retention program. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We were really excited to see a new line item added to the budget specifically focused on recruiting and retaining childcare teachers. We know that childcare teachers in Pennsylvania only make an average of $15 an hour. A lot of them rely on programs like Medicaid for healthcare, SNAP to put food on the table for their families. And unfortunately, because of this, they were leaving. And it was really hard for program directors to recruit people to the field. They have to make ends meet at the end of the day for their own family. So we saw in some other states, they started making some investments specifically in childcare teachers to try to keep them in place, recognize them, as you said, like for the important work that they do every day with our youngest children. So working closely with the governor's office and a great group of bipartisan legislators like the representative, we're really excited to get this over the finish line. And $25 million is a great start. This was the first line item, like I said, since pre-K counts. So it just shows that the General Assembly and the governor are really dedicated to early learning.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. Based on where the state's heading financially, that they still created a new program that just shows how important it is.
And I really commend the administration. Yeah. I mean, obviously, everyone who knows the budget process, that includes us in this room, but, you know, for those out in podcast land, I mean, the governor's proposal really sets the agenda for what goes into the budget. And, you know, I was grateful that Governor Shapiro proposed it in last year's budget, really talked about it, and then backed it up at an event in my district at Cross Point Church, which also is an early learning center. And we had a phenomenal event with their great staff, and they have availed themselves. Cross Point has availed themselves for trainings. I was at an ELRC training on President's Day. I mean, they do a phenomenal job. So I just had to shout out.
Oh, sure.
You know, and we're blessed here in this area. You know, you can throw a stone and pretty much run into a child care center. Unfortunately, that is not the way it is around the rest of the Commonwealth. You know, we may talk about this a little bit later, but child care deserts exists, those are a thing where people cannot find reliable childcare and have to rely on a relative or a family friend that's sort of, providing childcare but not in a traditional setting. So, we're really blessed around here to have a lot of access to a lot of options. And in my district in particular, I have some phenomenal childcare facilities that I visited nearly every one, and they do a great job each and every day.
Are they full right now? Or
pretty much, yeah. Everyone's pretty much at capacity in this area.
Right.
And I know, we have some work to do in other areas, like I said, but yeah, it's really hard. The affordability piece it's precarious, but this is, the recruitment and retention has been a real boon to helping to keep that workforce. Jen and I talked about this for a long time. I mean, why people do this, and the childcare workforce is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. They do this because they're passionate. They do this because they love kids. They do this because they really love the work. It's certainly not for the pay. It's for the love and the enjoyment of what they're doing. I mean, you could go work at Sheetz for $19 an hour.
$19, yeah.
Any number of Walmart, 17, 18. And yet this grant, and we're building on it. We're looking to build on it as well in this next budget.
Yep.
Well, that's a good segue. Jen, for PennAEYC and the priorities coming forward, what's the priorities for this upcoming budget season?
So we are excited. The governor proposed another $10 million for the program. So that would mean an increase in the amount that teachers are getting in child care programs to hopefully keep them there, recruit more. He's also proposed investments in pre-K counts and our Head Start program at the state level, similar investments to try to invest in the workforce. They also struggle, everybody's struggling with inflation.
Yeah.
So it'll help programs make ends meet as well. So we're really supportive of those investments, but there's some additional things we'd like to see in the budget too, to the point about affordability. We'd really like to see us start looking at the child care subsidy program, Child Care Works, and making more parents eligible for that program. So we'd like to see a down payment there in the budget. Another thing we hear a lot from child care and pre-K programs when we talk to them is the struggles they have in caring for children that have special needs. A lot of challenging behaviors are exhibiting in child care and pre-K programs, and the staff really want to feel equipped to help children. So we'd like to see a pot of funds kind of dedicated towards that purpose. And then last but not least, we want to retain some of the important things we have in our child care system. And one of those is we have a solid set of protections for the children in care to ensure they're safe. The parents have that peace of mind when they go to work. So we'll be, looking to maintain those sorts of protections in the regulations.
So the governor did his budget address. So budget hearings are concluded.
Yeah.
We're going through the next phase of it. There's a lot of talk on the Hill that there's going to be a relatively on-time budget. I mean, yes, there's a lot of posturing going on right now, but at this point, I think it sounds like they want to get this done this year. So what do we think? What do we see if we're going to forecast the future? Are we able to get some more increases this year, or do you think it's going to be harder?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean,
Yeah.
You guys know me. Before I got elected, I was a mental health and child advocate for 12 years.
Right.
So, there is the concept of an election year budget, right? It's a function of the calendar. So, we're in this 2026 midterm. So the governor is on the ballot, half of the state Senate is on the ballot, and the entire state house is on the ballot. So, election year budgets, I harken back to 2018. That one got done in a heartbeat before we even knew what hit us.
Right.
Governor Wolf was seeking a second term, and that was wrapped up, I think, June 23rd. And it's they done and dusted.
It is possible.
With some increases and some things that something for everybody essentially. I hope we follow the same track. But I do want to take a second just to touch on some of the things that Jen's talking about, because it's really important. It's really important that we double down on the recruitment and retention investment. Right. I mean, I think it at the end of the day, $460 ended up going to roughly $460 to each child care worker. With this additional $10 million, we can put $650 in their pocket. So that's over $1,000 over 2 years that we're looking to recruit and retain child care workers, which is huge, especially if we can sustain it. The other thing that Jen talked about, and I'm absolutely in favor of all of it. I'm probably one of the easiest just because of my my background in this area, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself or let the cat out of the bag. But I'm actually looking at that piece that Jen mentioned relative to Child Care Works. So right now, Child Care Works recipients are those who make about 200% of the federal poverty income guidelines, which for a family of four is around $50,000, somewhere thereabouts. But it doesn't match up with pre-K counts, because pre-K counts, you can make up to 300% of federal poverty and be eligible for pre-K counts, which is free pre-K for 3 and 4 year olds.
So how do you remedy that?
Well, so my idea is to make both programs more generous, and open up the eligibility for Child Care Works and pre-K counts to everyone making around 400% of the federal poverty income guideline, which it may sound like a big number. It's like $116,000 earnings for a family of four. But if you think about it this way, that's only a few $1,000s more than I make as a sitting legislator. So when we talk about a family of 4 or 5, it's not a great sum of money. And, with the way the economy's going, with inflation and affordability, I mean, everybody who's running for re-election just had to file election petitions to get back on the ballot. So we had to talk to a lot of people in order to do that. And that was the number one thing I've heard, whether it's folks talking about the cost of childcare, talking about their utility bills, talking about the price of groceries, the price of gas. People are really struggling out here today. And if we can, yes, it's going to take an investment. And it's actually something you mentioned, Rob, the conclusion of budget hearings, but it's something that I asked Secretary Valerie Arkush about, who's the Secretary of the Department of Human Services. I asked her about, what would that look like from a budgetary standpoint? And, if we were to make the programs more generous. And I think it just makes sense, especially in this day and age where people are really struggling. And again, I don't think any investment is too significant when we're talking about investing in our kids. I truly don't. I mean, and we're going to pay for it.
And that's bipartisan.
Right. And we're going to pay for it one way or the other.
We are.
I would rather pay $10,000 to $15,000 per kid so that they're in high quality childcare and high quality pre-K, rather than $40,000 on the back end when they're in some state prison. And we do the right things on the front end. Unfortunately, it takes some vision and some long-term planning, which we're just not good at in government.
Because everybody just looks at a number, right? And they're like, it's too expensive,
right? And our the incentive structure, we're just trying to get to the next election, a lot of us, and that's not a criticism. It's just the reality of what it is. And so I think we need to take a long-term approach here.
And that's what we're trying to do as advocates. We, along with the Start Strong PA and Pre-K for PA partners, have really been thinking about what is our vision to 2030? What can we do in the system to make it better for families, for those providing the services? And it's really a two-pronged problem. You have the problem families have in affording and finding childcare, and then on the other side of the house, the supply. And it's addressing our teacher compensation to make sure we have an adequate supply of childcare and pre-K teachers, and then reimbursing the programs appropriately so they can provide the care. And so we've thought about both of those problems and what are the best solutions to fix them. And we are proposing to eventually move to that 400% level, as the representative said. We want more families to be able to afford childcare and, again, benefit to the child who can access high-quality care, benefit to the family who's able to work, benefit to their employer who then has a stable workforce and ultimately benefits our economy.
That's right. Yeah, and we've looked at some other approaches, like I'm on the Finance Committee. Representative Hanbidge, I believe we pushed a bill out that she has to employers can get a tax credit if they provide a financial incentive for childcare to their employees. So there are other tools in the toolbox that we're looking at to try and incentivize this not only on the end with parents, but for businesses as well, to help them attract a workforce regardless of the industry.
Jen, you also work on the federal level, right? And so anything there that you're saying that could help states like Pennsylvania?
We saw a positive move in this past budget. There were actually small increases, but still increases to the Child Care and Development Block Grant line item, as well as Head Start. So high quality childcare, that's how we help pay for subsidies in Pennsylvania, is through the CCDBG block grant.
Right.
We supplement Head Start here so more students can access the program. So we're hoping to see at least moderate increases over the next few years. Again, these are issues that are embraced in a bipartisan manner, both federally and here at our state level.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to one thing that Jen said. This was in relation to the recruitment and retention grants, but, sometimes we don't have to reinvent the wheel with this stuff. Other states do this. Our neighboring states are a lot more generous as it relates to subsidies.
Okay, I was going to go there next. So
well, but the other thing too is there's a group called NEAR, the National Institute for Early Education Research, and some of the states. Years ago, when I was an advocate, I don't know if it's still the case, but Alabama was a model of how to operate in the early learning space because they make the investment. They have, whereas everything here is sort of siloed. We look at childcare in one bucket, pre-K in another, and then our K-12 in another bucket. It's a continuum down there, and so their pre-K teachers are paid on par with their kindergarten and K-12 teachers.
Wow. And
it really helps not only secure a workforce, but it helps keep that continuum because the standards are the same.
Exactly.
And as they are here, but even though we're asking, childcare workers to have a bachelor's degree and work toward a master's degree, we're paying them $15 an hour, and it's simply unacceptable.
Yeah, that's going to crash. You can't do that. I mean, it's impossible. And you're talking about affordability earlier.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
We're making it worse. So
much worse.
Yes,
yeah.
So then other states, there is a model from other states.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
We're seeing New Mexico is one of the states I like to highlight, has invested in both childcare and pre-K. I mentioned the cost for programs to run. They're actually paying them based on what it really costs, not a percentage of what parents in the private pay market pay. Yeah. So they're looking at what are the ingredients into running a high quality program. You need to pay your staff, like you said, appropriate compensation for the degree that you hold, for the experience that you have. What it takes to actually run that center or your in-home, licensed program. So we have models. We looked at other states for this recruitment and retention initiative so that we could show it's working in these other places. We don't want to make investments that don't work. So we wanted to look to things that have been successful. We have a homegrown initiative in York County that does something similar on recruitment and retention. So for us as advocates, we're always looking at presenting ideas that are research and data-based and often look to other states for that information.
How long did it take New Mexico to get to where they are now? Is this something that's relatively new, or is this?
I think it was probably building for a while.
It's been building, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when it happened, it was pretty quick, though.
Governor Richardson, I think, maybe started that initiative. I mean, Bill Richardson was around, during the Clinton administration.
Years, yeah.
So, I think. But
it takes leadership.
It takes leadership, right?
It takes bold leadership, and I think we have that here. I really do.
Well, the governor prioritized it last year, and that was big.
It was huge,
and so that's hopefully, like you guys said, it's the investment from the beginning, and let's build upon it.
And the wonderful thing that I've seen, and we've talked about it, but even as an advocate, and now it's no different in the building. This is something that has broad bipartisan support. Mm-hmm. When we talk about investing in our kids, when we talk about investing in our workforce, that's something that all of us can get behind, or the majority of us can get behind as policymakers. We might have differences about the level of investment, right? And that's candid. And I get it, but I think, something that you alluded to earlier, Rob, it's easy to look at the page and see just numbers. But I think when you put together a budget document and when you really prioritize what you want to invest in, that says something about your values.
Right.
That's a moral document to me. And so, again, I will never take a backseat to or apologize for investing in our children and investing in our future.
So you're going to come out with this bill soon? Is that what you're trying to do? Is that?
Yeah. In fact, I'm meeting about it today.
Okay.
And I
timing?
have to. What's that?
Good timing.
Yeah, well, and I have to be candid. I'm going to partner with the Start Strong Coalition.
Right.
And I'll be candid. Part of why I'm doing this, and Jen, no, I've had this thought for years. it doesn't make sense that these amounts don't marry up.
Right.
Why, like that one program, they're both subsidy programs, but why is one more generous than the other? Why aren't they, married with one another? It just doesn't seem to make any sense when they serve the same population. Ideally you'd have, young children, infants transitioning into pre-K. So you're serving pretty much the same population of kids, more or less. But I'm also, I want to talk a little bit about Future Caucus, which is a group that I'm involved in. I'm the co-chair, Pennsylvania co-chair of Future Caucus, along with Senator Joe Picozzi. And those are, Future Caucus is policies for, it's legislators 45 and under that are really policy focused on, it's Gen X, Millennial, and Gen Z legislators focused on policy for like sustainable policy through the generations. And I, just to be candid, I'm on the upper end of that. I'm aging out soon.
I'm beyond that. So,
but
I'm a lost cause.
But it's really like, and then we have cohorts in there, and so one of the cohorts is 0 to 3. So policies that can support, moms in the prenatal phase of pregnancy, and then babies from age 0 to 3. What are those policies that would really make sense? And so as part of that cohort, this is sort of my capstone project to try and get this bill introduced. And we're getting a little late in the session, I realize, but if we don't get the movement, if we don't get traction, I'm going to bring it back next year and every year that I'm here.
You got to elevate it, right, and just got to get out there because it's going to need vetting. We all know that, but at the same time, you got to raise the issue.
Absolutely.
To make it a priority.
Yeah, and it makes common sense. Honestly, I'm not a member of Mensa. It doesn't require, marrying those programs at the same exact subsidy level makes perfect sense.
Well, this conversation has been really timely as well because April is coming up as the month of the young child and the opportunity to focus public attention on all these issues. So, Jen, you have an event coming up?
Yeah, we do. I'm really excited about it. We have it every year during April, and it is our Voice for Children celebration, where we have some folks nominate early childhood professionals who not only care and educate children every day, but also take the time to be advocates with us. And these are people who are willing to go educate their local policymakers, come to the Capitol, but really speak on behalf of the children and families they serve and speak on behalf of the profession about what's needed to improve the sector. So we'll be honoring five different individuals on April 10th at the Hershey Lodge. We're really excited about it.
Well, how can they learn more about PennAEYC and also the Voice event?
Sure. If you just go to our website, www.PennAEYC.org, there's a Voice for Children page on our site.
And Representative Fleming, your page by offhand, or should we just do a search?
RepFleming.com. Yeah, PA House, www.pahouse/RepFleming. And the other important thing to note is, and I know we got to get out of here, but this is Women's History Month. A lot of these child care centers are women-owned small businesses.
Yes, they are.
And so if we want to support women, if we want to support small business, putting resources into child care centers, there are few better options for that investment than investing in our child care.
Great tie.
Yeah.
We appreciate you doing that. But again, we appreciate both of you. Thank you for joining us at Inside Influence.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Insight and Influence. To learn more about C&G strategies and to access previous editions, visit our website at cgstrategiespa.com.